Hello, and welcome to or welcome back to Radiantly Crowned. I am your host, Tiffany the Diamond, and today I am so honored to have a lady with me. Remember, I've been telling y'all about I will be having guests, and this is our first one, and I am so excited about it. And her name is Coach Theodora Carter. Did I get that right?
Yes.
And
Yes, you
she is
did.
a life and intention coach. And I am going to let
Yes.
her introduce herself and tell everyone a little bit about what you do, your brand. Tell us all the things.
Okay. All right. So my name is Theodora Carter, but I go by Coach Carter. And I am a life and career coach, but I really focus on helping women live with courage and clarity and intention. Right. And through my journey of just healing from just back to back losses, right? And then one that just really kind of took me out, I realized that, I was showing up authentically, but I really wasn't being authentic because I was someone who was, what's the word? Um, Successful, right? However, I wasn't really content, if that makes sense. And so, as I started my healing journey, I decided to go back and become a certified coach. But honestly, I've been coaching women for, I want to say, a very long time, and not even just women, because my trade, I'm an HR professional. So, my profession is HR, right? I've been in HR for over 25, 30 years. And so I've spent the majority of my life and career coaching and mentoring other people. But after going through my healing journey, I decided I wanted to help other women really live with intention, because I believe when we live with intention, we then begin to shape the lives that we live so that they mirror what we really want and desire.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so you know that I'm also a coach and I concentrate on identity reclamation and closure. But you just said that it's a lot of your concentration as well. And
Mm-hmm.
how does my first question to you would be, how does intentional living, because you concentrate on living with intention, how does that fit into a woman's journey of healing?
I would say that, and I'll just share my story, right? So, like I said, I went through a lot of back to back things that just I was functioning through it. And so that's another thing I've always struggled with. There's probably a clinical name for it, but it's functional depression. So I could get up, go to work, go to gym, do all the things, socialize, right? Just functioning through this space of, being, mildly depressed or whatever. And the last thing that happened to me, after like back to back to back, it took me out. Like I wasn't functioning, right? I was barely able to get through the workday, etc. And it wasn't until one day, I heard God's voice. I'm a believer. So say you could stay in this space of despair and woe is me, or you could choose to heal. Right. And so I would say how intention shows up in the space of healing is first recognizing that it is your choice, right? Like I had to make a choice that healing was my choice, but it was the way I chose to heal. Because I believe some of us heal in a space of focusing on what happened to us. When you heal intentionally, as hard as it is, because it is hard, it is accepting your part in what may have broken you, right? And so like healing is a choice. We have choices every day that we get to make in life, right? And so when you're healing with intention, when you're showing up in life in general, we could get up every day and just go about life without any plan, without anything, just moving, right? In a reactive state. So for me, living intentionally and healing with intention as well is healing proactively, right? It's not something that you just say, I'm going to do. You really have to focus on what that journey is going to look like, because it also has to be something that you're able to navigate through. Because when you, like, I chose to heal differently. And when I say choose, I chose to heal differently. The last time I went to therapy, it was, I chose to go in there with the thought that this is about me and nobody else. Like, something happened to me and I acknowledged it, and I acknowledged whatever happened to me. The person may not have been right or wrong, and but what part did I play in allowing it to happen? And that's what I mean by intention, right? So it also kind of aligns with being accountable.
It does. And I want to touch on that for just a moment. I actually made a post um yesterday that was saying, essentially I was saying, are you the weapon formed against yourself? At
Mm.
some point we have to admit where we might be
Excuse me.
some of the problem.
Mhm.
And I just heard you say that you have to hold yourself accountable at some point.
Yeah.
When you say that, when we decide to hold ourselves accountable, I think acknowledging that something
Mhm.
happened is one of the first. That's the first thing you have to
Yes.
do.
Yep.
Um, do you still allow yourself grace when you do that, or
Oh. Mm.
or do you just, I'm accountable, and you, how does that look for you? What would you say?
You can't do it without grace.
Can't do it without grace.
You can't, like, you have to, you have, like, grace is um like the number one thing on the list, because if you heal the way I decided to heal when I went back to therapy the last time, it was taking a look at, like, wow, you saw that, but you chose to ignore it. Right? Like, it was making, and so you have to, grace has to be in the picture so that it doesn't become a space of you judging yourself, right? You berating yourself. You, because part of it is also, I learned that it wasn't even so much that I was hurt; it was disappointment. And then as I continued to go through, therapy, and just peel back the layers, right, and look at me, I was disappointed with myself. And so you have to have a level of grace there, because when you start to peel back the layers and now you're like, I'm disappointed with myself, I'm angry with myself, I'm like, you're intelligent, you're smart, you're an exact. How did you end up like this, right?
I don't
And
know.
so you need grace so that when those thoughts start coming in, you give yourself the same grace that you were probably giving that person that you allowed to hurt you, or
That
that
sounds great.
situation, that you allow. Because you know what, we are big on giving other people grace, but we don't extend the same grace to ourselves. But I would say a part of your healing journey, grace is number one on the list, because if you go through it the way I went through it, it's not easy. Healing, I always say healing is a choice, but it's not easy because you are literally, think of that song, I'm the Man in the Mirror, right?
Yeah.
Remember that song? You're
Hmm.
literally looking in the mirror, right? If you're doing it the right way, you're looking in the mirror and you're holding yourself accountable for something that happened to you. Whereas a lot of people, I'm going to say some people, and no offense to anybody, but some people like being the victim, right? And so when you like being a victim, it's hard for you to look at yourself and look at the fact that I made this choice and it ended up like this. And it's not just around um relationships. It's around financial, right?
Oh.
Some of us, you make a choice to go out and spend all this money. Now you mad at the creditors that are coming at you, calling you because they want to get paid, right? And now you mad at them, but you made the choice to go get this credit card to spend it to the max, and now you can't pay it. That's you, boo. Right? That's the simplest example I could give, right? And granted, it's not easy for everyone to leave a relationship. So I definitely want to say this does not apply to anybody that is in a situation that involves like domestic violence or anything like that, because that's a whole nother story, right? But when we stay in spaces, whether it's an intimate relationship or a friendship, where someone is constantly abusing you, like right, just by the things they do, right? They're not honoring your boundaries. They're those friends you have that give you those compliments, but they're a little compliment with a little dig, right? Like you know when people are not really in your corner, or you staying with the dude that he don't have time for you, but you making excuses, and I'm speaking for myself, right? You making excuses for why he can't show up to stuff, right? When in the back of your mind, you know this might not be the dude for you, but for me, I was so in love with being in love that I forgot to love myself enough to not expect more from someone. But that was a choice. So now that it falls apart, right? I could be upset. I could be mad. But how long can I stay mad at somebody that only did what I allowed them to do?
That's a great point. That's a really great point. And I've actually talked about, because I know much like you, and I didn't know the word for it when you said functional depression. I was able, just like you, to get up, show up at a job with a smile. Good morning. I'm the bubbliest person there. And I'm dying on the inside. And
Yeah.
for a long time, I consider myself a victim
Mm-hmm.
of what I was going through for a long time. And finally, just what you said, I had to realize that I'm now choosing this. I'm free to
Yeah.
walk out the door. What do you think, or what would you say to someone who may be in a situation, or, and like you said, definitely not someone, domestic violence. I don't condone. I've also
Yeah.
been through that, and you know, not that, but someone who's putting up with the insults,
Yeah.
or friendship, or even the toxic workplace. What would you say to someone who is thinking of getting out, or they know that they need to leave, but they don't know what would be next?
Yeah. And so I would say this, like you said, right? I think there's so many people out there like you and I, right? That we showing up in life daily. Well, used to, because now we know, right? But we're showing up in life daily living a life that we feel we're expected to live, or we feel like this is all it is, right? And so you get to that point where you're showing up, where you're not really content and happy in life. I would say it's not easy, and that's where the intention comes in, right? Because like you said you were in something and you were like, I'm choosing to stay here, right? But it's not like everybody can just decide like, hey, I'm leaving, right? And that's where you begin to think about, right, what is that one thing that I want to do? So using you as an example, at the point that you said, I'm choosing to stay here, the next thing is, okay, now that's awareness, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I work with my clients. Like, you got to be aware. So now I'm aware of why I'm feeling the way I am. So now let's get clear on what are the steps I need to take in order to change this situation. Because it's not going to happen overnight. Because we didn't end up in the space that we were in overnight, right? So now it's like I'm aware and I'm acknowledging that I'm not happy and I'm in a space that I don't want to be in. And so the next step is, what do I need to do to get to where I want to be? And some of them is going to be even figuring out what that looks like, because you don't want to jump out of one thing into another and you're not really sure where you're trying to go, right? So that's where now you acknowledge, now you're aware, now get clear on where it is that you would like to be, and then you begin to put the plan in place and the action. If it's someone that's in a relationship, and again, I always want to say this is not domestic violence, because that's a whole nother thing, right? But just a regular, let's talk friendship. You in a friendship and you're like, yo, I'm always the one giving, I'm always the one calling up. You then begin to say to yourself, first of all, do I want to remain friends with this person? Right? Because it might be a relationship worth holding on to, and it may not be. If it's a relationship worth holding on to, then you decide, what are the things that I need to do to make this relationship work? Is it that I have to have honest conversation with this person on the things that they're doing that is not making me feel right? Or you decide to walk away, and that doesn't have to be an announcement on Facebook or Instagram like people like to announce, right? It just has to be, you know what? I'm going to set some boundaries, because you get to decide who has access to you. And a lot of us don't honor our boundaries, right?
We don't.
So I always say to people, think about it, right? When the phone rings, you don't have to answer every phone call. You don't have to answer every text message. You could also set it up. I know a friend. I have a friend who, when she was co-parenting, she didn't want to deal with the toxic part of whatever was coming from her ex. So the only way he could communicate with her was via email, because she decided, I can control when I respond to those emails, right? You can't just call me. You can't just text me when you want to. So I think the first thing the person needs to do, once they acknowledge that they are ready to move on, is they have to think about, where am I moving on to? Right? You have to be clear on what it is that you want, because once you're clear on what it is that you want, you can then begin to think about, what are the intentional steps I have to take in order to get there.
That makes so much sense. And closure. I
Mm,
heard you mention closure, and I'm very big on closure. Is one of the things that I coach on.
mm-hmm,
How important uh, is closure to you? What are your thoughts on closure? How important is that in the steps that you're taking to heal and move on.
So the one thing I learned was, just like they say forgiveness is for you, closure is for you. No one else can really give you closure.
That's so
So,
true. That is so
right,
true.
right.
And
I'm sure
so
you tell your
many,
clients
yes,
that.
so many women think that you have to have an apology
Mm-hmm.
or you have to have them saying I was wrong. And a lot of times they're just not going to do that.
Nope, it's not, because when you think about it, right? People will be like, "Oh, I need closure." Okay, so this person, whatever they did, right? They decide that they're gonna tell you why they did it. Now you know. How does that help you? It doesn't change, right? It doesn't change what happened, right? And so I think people have to, first of all, I'm not gonna say, because other people might be able to move on with hearing, right, the response. But you have to think about the reason you're seeking the closure from this person, because a lot of times the apology, the explanation is not gonna make what happened go away. And so you have to really be mindful of why you're seeking closure. So for me, not for everybody else, but for me, I believe closure had to happen for me. I had to reconcile what happened, why it happened, my part in it. And then I really feel like we're always healing from stuff, right?
Yes.
Like always. But when you finally heal from that thing, right, that you were struggling with, I feel like when you are able to talk about it and it no longer brings up an emotional reaction to you, like you can talk about it and you're not mad, you don't cry, you're not angry, that's when you know that you have closure. And a lot of time that closure is going to come from you. So some of the things I've done is and this is gonna, every time I say it, I'm like, you really need to figure out a different way to say this. But I kind of like have a funeral with a person in my head, right? Like, like I write like a little obituary, like like they like, because the other thing is we have to recognize that sometimes the people that hurt us weren't bad people, because otherwise we would have never been dealing with them anyway, right? So it wasn't that they were mean or or ain't like, and in some cases they are, but it's not. A lot of times they weren't bad people, because otherwise we would not have chosen to be in relationships with them, right? Any type of relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship, a friendship, a work relationship, right? But somewhere along the way, they did something that disappointed you or did not align with how you felt you should be treated. And then we hold on to that, and then we make that who the person was. But as I started healing, I was like, yo, these guys weren't really bad guys. Like, it wasn't like they were abusive. It wasn't like they were disrespectful to me while we were in our situation, right? They just weren't for me, right? But it's a journey, because it also is, it takes you really looking at yourself and recognizing, like, why did this hurt me so much? Like, now I look back and I be like, thank you, God. Like, oh my God, like, like, you saved me. Like, a lot of times when you really look back at it, and I'm sure you gotta could identify with this, right? You're like, wow, God really saved me from what I thought I wanted or thought I needed, but it really would not, like, that wasn't for me, right? And when you take a step back, like, sometimes you're like, wow, it's not like I lost a prize. It's not like, right? Like, you be upset, but then you be like, wait a minute, I have more peace, right? I have more of this, right? So I think a lot of time, and it's hard because it doesn't happen overnight. And because it doesn't happen overnight, and in some cases, a lot of us are going through it alone, right? Unless you like I believe in therapy. And even after I healed from what I went to therapy for, I continued therapy as a preventative measure, right? But even if you don't go through therapy, I think a significant thing for me too in my last journey was I finally let family and friends know, yo, I'm not okay. And so that's the other thing I would say to people is it's okay to let people know that you are not okay, especially when you show up as the person that always has it together, right? Like
Yeah.
when you show up as the person that always have it together, people think you good all the time. Especially like you said, we're walking around smiling, we out, we partying, we doing whatever, right? People like, oh, she good. But inside, you're not, right? I remember times being out having a great time, going home, crawling up in my bed, crying myself to sleep,
Man.
right? It wasn't until I finally said to like my closest core group, yo, I am not good. I need you guys to pray for me. I need you guys to do whatever, right? And at that point where I realized like, yo, I don't always have to have it together. I don't always have to be good. So now when people be like, how you feeling? I might say, you know what? I'm good, but I'm not really having a great day today, right? Like I'm struggling with XYZ, right? And not in a bad way because now I know how to manage, right? The things that come up because I stayed in therapy for preventative measures. So I have like tips and tricks and tools. And now that I coach people, I coach myself, right? But I think the main thing is to just realize it's okay to not be okay. And I will say, as I went through this journey, I really started avoiding the strong word because
Okay.
I think that's detrimental to us as well as African American females, and I'm sure other ethnic groups too. But I can only talk about my group and who I am. But I think also when we always show up with this, she's the strong one, or I'm the strong one, or black women are categorized as we could manage everything, right? We could do
Yes.
it all, right? We
Yes.
wear that like a badge of honor. And so then we think we can't let anybody know that we're not strong. So I would
Yeah.
say just realize that, we are human like everyone else. We have feelings, we have emotions. And I think another great thing, and, because I work in HR, but also because I have friends that are coaches as well and they coach in other realms, right? I know my strengths. I have a friend who's a strength coach, right? So I know my strengths. So I know why I show up the way I show up, right? But also, I have a group of friends who we studied together emotional intelligence. Like we would literally get on on virtual calls to go through what that looks like. Because another thing is when you are emotionally intelligent, it means you are aware of who you are, what drives you. So it's kind of it goes along with that strength, right? You know how you show up, right? So I know how I show up. So I know when I'm being petty. I know where I'm being annoying. I know when I'm avoiding, right? So it's very important to know how you're showing up because then you can manage that. But I think boundaries are important too. So many people don't have boundaries.
I want to touch on that. So, well, it was something else that you said too. When you know who you are,
Hmm.
at what point, if you're in a situation or it's a friendship, whatever it is, At what point, uh, at what point did you realize, or did you say, this isn't me, this is not who I am? Were there any sudden signs, or how did you get to that point where you realized that I'm not showing up as Coach Carter?
I think you said it best, right? When you said how you were showing up at work, right? And so I am, like I said, I'm an HR professional, and I'm a beast in my field, and it took me a while to say that, right? Because I tend to be more humble behind the scenes, but so it took me a long time to say that I have grown in my field. I've been very successful in my field, and you know, but then I realized that I love the work that I do, but I was no longer in love with the work that I do. But I was
Okay.
still showing up, which is what, like, through my healing journey, which is why I started going more into like coaching. Like, I'm like, I love when I'm helping another woman, right, or even person, because I also do career coaching too. So I may work with men on that end, right, with the career coaching. But I love when I'm talking to someone and they have an aha moment, right? I love seeing people, um, their lives begin to transform, right? Because of something they do or recognizing that. But I would say it really comes down to, and you know this as an identity coach, right?
Mhm.
It comes down to knowing who you are. So one of the first questions I ask my clients is, who are you? And when I say that, I mean not your title, like, because you'll ask somebody who they are, right? I was good with, like, I'm a HR, I'm a CHRO, or I'm a this, right? But not your title, right? Not your career, not I'm a mom. Like, who are you? When you're like, when think about when people become empty nesters, right? When the children leave home. So you've been a mama for 18 years, taking care of this kid. Now they're not here anymore. Who are
Who
you?
are you?
Right? And so I think when it comes to that, it was at the point that I really started to look at, I love the work that I do, but was it really um feeding me anymore? Was I really enjoying it? Was I really content? Right? Or was it because what was expected of me because I'm so good at it? Right? And so I would say the biggest change is a lot of people were side-eyeing me when I decided intentionally to leave an executive level role to go back to just being an individual contributor. And that was an intentional decision because I wanted to really work on growing my coaching business. And being in that executive role, you on, or even when you off, you on, right? Like your phone, it like somebody's trying to get you, you answer emails, you're doing whatever. There's a level of stress, right? And so I will say at the point that I decided that peace was my priority is the point that I really started looking at, like, really, who are you? Like what do you enjoy doing? I remember I recently had this conversation with someone a few months ago that I work with, and it's someone that I support, and we're talking, and in the field that I'm in, unfortunately, sometimes you gotta tell people that they don't have a job, right? They're being laid off. And afterwards, I'm talking to somebody else, and they was like, "Wow, they really took it hard." And I'm like, "Yeah, because for X number of years, this job has been their identity, and so now this job is no longer here, and so now they don't know, like they fall apart." And I said, so when people don't really know who they are, what they enjoy, what what make, like, when your feet hit the ground, what are you excited about in the morning, right? When you you lose yourself. And the person said to me, the
Yes.
next time I spoke to them, they said, I was really thinking about what you said, and I realized I need to figure out that for myself because they also have been at the place of employment for X number of years, and that's how they identify, right? And that's not just them; that's a lot of us. That was me for a number of years. Like, who are you? Like, I could tell you whatever you want about HR. We talking about HR, right? And and then I'm doing other things that with other people, but is it things that I really want to do? And so I would say to most people, you need to really look at what are the things that you enjoy doing that you have forgotten about that you no longer do, right? I remember when I started my coaching business, one of my friends said, "Oh my God, you finally started your business." And I don't remember talking with this person like years ago about wanting to be a business owner because as life started and I got successful in its career, I forgot all about the fact that at one point, one of my goal dreams was to be a business owner.
You touched on something else there. You talked about boundaries, and then I asked you that. Would you say, looking back now, because you were an executive and you said, "Hey, I stepped down because I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do coaching, wanted to
Mm-hmm.
open my own business." First of all, would you say that that's your purpose? I know as a believer, I believe in
Mm-hmm.
God as well, and I believe He has a purpose for us all. Would you say that coaching is your purpose?
I would say mentoring and helping other people
Hmm.
is because even in the and I say this all the time, like people are drawn to me and I don't know why. Like I'm like, why? Like why do you feel like me? Right? And my friends would be like, it's your aura. But I will say when I am in a space of having conversations like this or helping someone or guiding someone, right? That is, I have energy, right? It's a different type of energy. So I
Yes.
will say that I do believe like it is my purpose to give because here's the thing.
Hmm.
People say, I'm trying to look for my purpose. And one of the things one of my coaches once said to me, she was like, your purpose, you already know what it is to use the gifts and talents and ability and your experiences
Hmm.
to help other people, right? And so like for you, you've experienced some stuff, right? I've experienced some stuff. And we could sit on that stuff and we could keep it to ourselves because, we don't want to share it. We want to hide it. But the minute that you begin to share through your coaching your experiences, you help somebody else
That's so
because
true.
that's your purpose to use your experiences, your talents, and your gifts to help somebody else. Because every time we share something that we've gone through, somebody else identifies with it. And
That's
even
it.
if it doesn't help them right away, at some point they're going to be like, oh, I remember when Tiffany said XYZ. Let me reach out to Tiffany. Maybe she can help me. Or maybe let me just go grab a book, right? Or whatever. But so I do believe when we use our experiences coupled with our gifts and our talents and our abilities, that is our purpose.
I love that. And another point that you said, you stepped from an executive, which that to back to you went down, and most people are
Mm-hmm.
looking to elevate, and oh, I want to own it.
Mm-hmm.
How uncomfortable were you at that point? And we've talked about boundaries as well, so this is a two part.
Mm-hmm.
Did your boundaries and standards change when you realized that you were going to go another direction, or have you always had the same boundaries?
No, I would say your boundaries changed, I think, based on the season that you are in.
Okay.
right? So
Mhm.
I think the most important thing when it comes to boundaries is us honoring our own boundaries. Because you could set 10,000 boundaries, but if you don't, if you don't hold people to
Yeah.
accountable to honoring them, right, it's a whole different thing. But as far as did I feel was there a level of discomfort?
Mhm.
I would say no, because at that point I was now moving more. Like I used to be that person that okay, I just want to do it. I'm gonna do it. Let me do it. But once I started moving in a more intentional manner, when I made that decision, I had looked at okay, one, you just moved from New York to North Carolina. It's already going to be a pay cut, right? What does that look like if you now are no longer in a leadership role? Because then that's a further reduction, right, in pay. What are your expenses? What do you need to live, right? So it wasn't a decision that was made in haste, right? I really
Okay.
had to weigh, right? What would that look like, right? Am I going to be able to live on a lower income, right? Am I going to be able to do the things that I still want to do, right? And also it comes down to the lifestyle that you live. Because honestly, unfortunately, a lot of people expect their employers to pay for their lifestyle, and that's not how it works. Employers pay you based on what the market says they should pay you, based on what the job is valued at, based on there's a whole nother parameters, right? Like the size of the organization, the industry, the company, all of that, right? But there are some of us that believe that I'm gonna drive this luxury vehicle, live in this $2.5 million house, all of this that I can't afford, right? So I also had to look at my lifestyle, right? And what would it think like I needed to be realistic, right? So I went through all of that, and when I realized that you like I don't live an elaborate lifestyle, I'm just comfortable, right? But I also had to make sure if I still want to travel, am I able to do that, right? And so I just looked at where am I spending money that I really don't need to spend money, right? Because and
Okay.
so and that's when I say that's intention, right? Like it's really it's hard because you got to be willing to give up stuff. And but then I also weigh what's most important. Like I'm stressed out all the time. I'm my peace at that point. I'm like peace is my priority, right? I just want to live a peaceful life, and I could still do the work that I like to do, and it doesn't have to be at a level. And the other thing is, I wasn't trying to go any higher than where I was. And
Yeah.
honestly, I ain't even listen. That was God's grace that I even. I mean, yeah, I worked hard. Yep, I did my part. But that was God's grace that I even went from administrative assistant to that level, right? And I'm not gonna say I didn't work hard. I'm not gonna say I didn't show up, right? But also, it was like it's a title that doesn't define me. But
See,
that goes back to identity,
yes, it does.
right?
It
And
does.
when we hold on to titles and things, and it drain. I don't even think people realize how much it drains you when you try to hold on to these things that are outside of you, right?
They
Like
don't.
these, like who are you? You are you are created, right, with a divine purpose, right? Some of us don't even know what it is because we don't allow ourselves to experience life the way we're supposed to experience life, right? We are meant to live an abundant life, and some of us are chasing that, but that means that doesn't just mean financial wealth. That means good relationships, right? All types of relationships, work relationships, business relationships, friendships, right? That means peace, right? That means experiencing joy, right? That means You're happy not because somebody else or something is making you happy, because that's the other thing. When we rely on things and people to make us happy or bring us joy, when those things are no longer here, that is why we crumble. Happiness comes from within. Joy comes from within, and joy and happiness are two different things.
That's interesting. Joy and happiness, you say, are two different things.
Yeah, because joy is waking up every morning. Like today, somebody was like, "You having a good day?" I'm like, "Yeah." Every day I open my eyes, it's a good day. That's joy. Joy is just it's just there, right?
Okay.
It's just accepting that you have the ability to live another day.
Okay.
You right. Um you have breath in your body. You have a roof over your head. You have just like the basic things, right? Happiness comes from external stuff,
That makes sense. That makes sense.
right?
And I was one of those people that would have put them together.
Yeah,
Joy
but
and happiness
happiness comes
together.
from external stuff. So when that external stuff is no longer around, your joy is sapped because you're equating them as the same thing. They're not,
Joy and happiness.
right? We are created. We are daughters of the King, right? We are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? um we should love ourselves. Like we're looking at other people. Oh, my hair is not this, and my body is not this, or whatever. You were created as you who you were supposed to be. Now, yeah, you want to be healthy, you want to take care of yourself, but who you are is who you were created to be. And the fact that you woke up this morning, that right there should make you joyful, right?
Um, how important? So, how important? And I got to touch on this because, like I said, I do believe in God. I don't
Mhm,
think we can do anything
mhm,
without Him. Was there ever a time when you lost any of your faith? Not lost it, but like you were kind of disconnected or felt disconnected. And how did you get back there? I know there was a time for me,
mhm,
not that I ever stopped believing in God. I
mhm.
want to say
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but it was a time where I was kind of, how can I say it? I thought I was doing it. This is
Mhm.
me.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah. Like you were like this. I'm orchestrating everything that's
I'm
happening.
over, yeah, and
I don't know that I've ever gotten to that point, but there was a time, like I literally do the last journey I went through. I was like, yo, I'm done. I'm not talking to you. Like, I literally said to my friend, I need you to pray for me because I don't even know what to say to him. I ain't talking to him. I ain't got nothing to say. But every day I was telling him that I'm not talking to him. Right. And so, like you said, I never stopped believing in him, but there was a point where I was like, yo, like, I, I don't really feel like praying. I don't really feel like reading the Bible. Like, but like, I'm just going through the motions, right? And I think how I got back to him is because, although I was like, I'm done. We on a break, right? I was still telling him we on a break, right? I'm still having these conversations, but also I am blessed because I have a lot of friends who are like I know right now there's someone out here that lifting my name up,
see,
right? And so I was surrounded by people that they were holding me up, right? But also, I also knew that um I can't do it without them,
see,
right? Like I think when you truly have a relationship, because there's a difference between relationship and religion, right? When you truly have a relationship with with God, with him, right? it's not gonna, like, when you're just like, oh, I'm going to church on Sunday. Like, I'm not a just Sunday. I'm in my word every day of the week, right? I'm having conversations every day of the week, every day, to the point where he probably like, girl, I don't even want to talk to you because leave me alone for a second, right? but I think we all go through that. Like recently, I was saying to one of my friends, I said, I was listening to a podcast and the person talked about faith fatigue. And the way she described faith fatigue, I was like, yo, I'm going through that right now. Right? Like I still believe, I'm still faithful, but it's like you're tired of, like, you're tired of waiting. Like you're faithful, you're trusting, but you're like, okay, I'm, but come on now, right? And so I think there are periods where we as believers that have a relationship,
See?
right,
Hmm.
is you do get weary, you do get tired, but that's when you knowing the word and the scripture that no weapon, like you said when we started, no weapon formed, right? And so now I literally will spend time breaking down the word, right? So when I heard that faith fatigue, I literally broke down faith and fatigue. And at the end of it all, it was like, yo, you just need to continue to abide,
And
right?
just you know,
Even in this period of feeling fatigue, right? Like you, we trying to build these businesses, right? We trying to do what we do, right? You trying to transition from one space to another, right? It gets you get to those moments and you're like, am I really supposed to be doing it, right?
oh
But
man,
it's like when you abide in him through it all, right? You do your part. Because I'm a big believer in too, James 1:22, right? You gotta be a doer of the word, right?
I'm writing it down. James 122.
Right? You just can't, you can't just read. Like, you gotta be a doer of the word. You gotta kind of obey, right? Because that's the manual. That's the life manual, right? And we all don't get it right. I say all the time, I'm still a work in progress, right? But I
Hello.
but I but I try my best, right, and do my best. But the other side of it is faith without works is dead. So you can't just be sitting back waiting for him to do everything. You got to do your part as well, right? And that's where the work that we do comes in, right? Because there are some people that are going to receive it and they might be like, hey, yep, Tiffany, I'm going through XYZ. I need you to help me through this grief. I need you to help me figure out who I am, right? Because you do identity and grief, right? And and so you're gonna step in and you're gonna share your experience, but you're also gonna help them by helping them have their aha moment, right? But the beauty of it is too, right? And I hope somebody hear this too, right? We are true coaches who could have been like, I don't want to get on your podcast. I don't want to, right? But there's collaboration, right? Working together, because someone that might be drawn to you is not going to be drawn to me. Someone not drawn to, so I now can be like, hey, you know who you need to talk to? You need to talk to Tiffany the Diamond, because that she can help you with that, right? Like I could talk you through it, but she could really help you through that, right? And so I say all that to say is, the more we just abide through it all, that's the thing. We want to have this, oh, things are going well, so today I like you, God, but things are not. So for me, it's through it all. Like recently, me and my family experienced a sudden loss that I could never have imagined, right? And I was like, you know what? I don't understand it, I don't know why you chose this, but we're gonna trust you,
See it.
right? And that's it. Cause I will tell you, like, I think my whole family was like, really, God. But because we all are believers and we all at different levels of faith, right? We could help each other through it, right? And so I think that's the other thing is you need to know your community,
See it.
and
Yes.
you also need to recognize that everyone can't go where you're meant to go. And so sometimes you don't have to necessarily let go of people, but I think of it like a stadium, right? There are going to be some people that are in your front row, and there are some people you're going to have to move to the bleacher seats, the balcony, to the nosebleed seats, right? Not everyone can be in, like, some of us like to hold on to people, and you see this with celebrities, right? They start in the building their career and they want to bring all of the guys that they used to hang up with, and now you getting in trouble, right? Everyone can't go where you're going. It doesn't mean that they no longer exist in your life. They just have to be in another part of it. Like you have to show up with those people differently, right? Because not everybody is rooting for you. Not everybody is trying to help you get to where you're trying to get to, right? And some people are happy being where they're at. And you got to recognize that. And that's why I always say it's great to have boundaries, but if you don't honor your boundaries, nobody else is. So, like for me, my phone goes on do not disturb at 9 p.m. From 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., only certain people can get through because I have them on the list too. But otherwise, from that period of time, that's my downtime, right? If I don't want to do something, I don't have a problem anymore saying, nah, I'm good. Whereas before, I would try to show up to every event for everybody, be everywhere. So you have to honor your boundaries. If you don't honor your boundaries, if you say, I have a friend, I know I can't call her after 10 p.m. I know that, right? But if, if I call her after that, she knows something is wrong, right? But I say that to say, if she sets that boundary and then picks up the phone for anybody for anybody, now you just dishonored your boundary. That's like me. My cutoff time is 9 p.m., right? And my phone manages that. So that's the other thing. People use your devices. You got a smartphone. You could literally put your phone on do not disturb. You could silence your notifications, right? If you're trying to get yourself in a space of peace, that's intention.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying? So it really is just being intentional, but it's also honoring the things that you put in place to help you work on what you want to get to. I don't sit on the phone and have mindless conversations. Now, yes, I will check in with friends. Hey, how you doing? Whatever. But I'm not spending an hour on the phone with you talking about nothing because I don't have that time to do it. And there's so many of us that still do that. I'm not spending hours watching reality TV. I barely turn my TV on, right? Because people will say to you, Tiffany, I don't have time to do XYZ. And when I have my clients do, and even people I mentor, right? I'll be like, I want you to spend 3 days or even 5 days, however many days you think you could do it. And I want you to track everything you do from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. At the end of that period, I guarantee you will find 2 to 3 hours, if not more, of wasted time that you could be doing something to help you get to where you want to go.
Track
Because how much
everything
time
you
do you
do.
how much time do you spend scrolling on social media? How
That's
much
a big
time do
one.
you spend watching YouTube videos? How much time do you spend watching TV? You watching all the 50 Cent Power and all his Raising Canaan and all these other shows? How much of that time could you spend intentionally doing something that aligns with the goal that you have for your life?
That makes so
And
much
I'm not
sense.
saying you can't do it. Like I watch TV, but I watch TV on the weekend, and even then, it's only for a certain period of time. And I choose what I watch. So
Have you always been that way? Or
nope.
was it when you started with the intentional healing and intentional living?
I haven't always been that way, and it was actually probably before I started
Mhm.
the coaching and stuff. It got more intense when I started the intentional stuff. But I actually learned that from a coach that used to do a challenge every year at the beginning of the year. She would do a 7-day challenge where you would have to. It was two things. It was decluttering, but it was also being mindful of where you were spending your time.
That's so good.
and
I love
and
it.
and from that, and so when I started really getting into like this intentional living is when I started like really being really like diligent in incorporating it. And because I started to see like, wow, I can't say that I didn't have time to do XYZ, right? Because now I could sit down and I'll be like, oh, all right. I mean, it's not easy. And that's the other thing I want to tell people. Just because we're coaches, it doesn't mean we have it all together,
Oh no.
right? So I still might have those moments when I'm like, I'm procrastinating, right? But I also realize that it's intentional. That is also intentional. It's like, you know what? My mind can't really deal with this right now. I'm just gonna go veg out, right? But the other side of it is we're not perfect. Like you heard me say how many times my coach. Coaches have coaches. Therapists have therapists.
Yes.
Doctors have doctors. Accountants have accountants.
Yeah.
So, like, the reason why we're able to show up and do the work that we do is because we also are having someone else hold us accountable in addition to holding ourselves accountable. And so you heard what I just say. I didn't just say coaches have coaches and therapists have therapists, but listen, doctors have doctors, accountants have accountants,
Yeah.
therapists have therapists, right? Social workers have social, like everybody needs someone to hold them accountable.
And that's perfect for this next question. For the people that are out there who are maybe just beginning their journey or thinking about beginning their journey, I heard you say you're a coach and a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? If someone's looking to do some coaching or maybe they're looking for a mentor or consultant, what's the difference in a coach and a mentor and what you do?
Yeah, I would say for me as a coach, as a coach, we ask a
Mhm.
lot of questions, right? So anyone that's gonna work with a coach, I think they need to recognize that don't come into the relationship thinking we're going to tell you what to do. It really is a transformative process where we help bring out what you already know, and we do that by asking questions, right? I think a mentor functions in that way as well, but a mentor also is going to kind of guide you, right? And a consultant as well, right? We're going to tell you a little bit, like we're gonna be like, all right, now I think you need to do X, Y, Z. A coach might do that, but more so, the the process is really for us to help you figure out what it is that you want, but also what's already inside of you,
That's it.
right? So I remember when I first started coaching with my coach, like I was like, she asking me all these questions, she giving me all this work to do, right? Like, but it made sense because you really have to figure out what it is, what's blocking you, what it is that you want for your life, right? And so I think that is the main difference. As a mentor, you're gonna do that as well, but you're also gonna give a little more guidance, right? You're gonna give a little more guidance as a coach. Like,
Exactly.
and when I say I mentor, like I mentor people like other HR professionals, right?
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I also am in a program that mentors. They assign you to um, young people who is their first. They're like the first person in their family that are going to college.
Oh, okay.
So you kind of help them navigate like that, like, and and so in those situations it may be different, right? Because I'm not just going to be asking you questions. I'm going to probably be like, well, why don't you try this, or why don't you try that, or what do you think about this? But because I am in HR, I probably do lean more to that, helping people come up with their own thoughts or whatever. Because even in HR, you need people to get to the point of seeing their part in whatever they believe is the problem.
That
Because most
makes so much.
people, because most people in the workplace, they want to blame HR and all the other people for what's going on, right? And I'm not going to say we're all perfect, because there are some people in my profession that don't show up the way they should. But a lot of time in life, people don't want to hold themselves accountable for their part in whatever the situation is. So I think the difference is depending on the environment you're in and the situation is how you're leading them. But most coaches are not supposed to tell you what to do. They're supposed to help you get to that point, right? And we do that by asking you a lot of questions, because those questions bring you to that aha moment,
I
right?
don't think a lot of people realize that. I don't think they know the difference in like a
Mm-mm.
mentor, a coach, a
Out there,
therapist.
exactly, and that's another thing.
They don't know the difference.
We are as coaches are not therapists. So, and there have been times when I'll tell people, I don't really think you need to work with me. I think you need to work with a therapist first. Or if you want to work with a therapist and work with me together. Like when I was going through my coaching journey, when I was seeing a coach, I also had a therapist, because
Okay.
my coach wasn't my therapist and my therapist wasn't my coach. They serve two different purposes. And so at the same time that I was doing coaching, like I was working with a coach, I also had a therapist. And I was
That
getting
makes so much
different
sense.
things from both of them.
Which brought you to who you are
Exactly.
today.
Yeah.
Okay. And you also have a YouTube. You also have a podcast.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
tell us about it. What do you focus on there?
Okay.
And what's the name of it? How can they find you on there?
All right. So people can find me everywhere. I am Theodora Carter 428. So Instagram, Facebook, my YouTube channel, and on my YouTube channel, which is like it's in the development stage, and I don't have like you, I don't have guests, and I don't know if I'll ever have guests. I don't know, but right now we really on my channel. I really just talk about being intentional. So I really go on to talk with women about just different things that we're experiencing in life, like there's nothing wrong with you. Like I think one of my topics on there right now is there's nothing wrong with you, right? It just may be that you need to get clear on XYZ, right? And so a lot of my videos are aligned with just helping women figure out, right, what's going on, like helping women understand that in order to really get to where you want to get to, you need to live intentionally. So most of my videos are going to talk about living with intention. It's going to talk about, um, getting clear, having awareness. I believe it starts with awareness, clarity, and then movement, right? And so I'm working on a program right now. It's going to be a 6 week coaching program, and it actually starts with recognizing where you are, then reclaiming what that looks like, then realigning, then redesigning, and then reinforcing.
I
Right.
love it.
So, because first we got to recognize that there's a problem. Then you got to figure out, what am I trying to reclaim in my life? Right. What's out of alignment? Because and that's really what I talk about on my YouTube channel. A lot of it is, where are you out of alignment? Because it's not that something is wrong with you. It's just that there's something that's not aligned with the season that you're in. And once you figure that out, now, then you figure out, how do I get back into alignment? Or do I need to pivot? Maybe what I thought I wanted, or what direction I was going in, is no longer where I want to go. And it's okay. Right? Some people are afraid to pivot. Some people are afraid to readjust or change because they feel like it's failure. But failure is a part of life. In fact, failing makes you better.
It's so uncomfortable though.
Mm-hmm. But
It
there's
is
a
a
book
part of
that
life.
I love. It is, but there's a book that I love. I tell everybody about it. It's by John C. Maxwell. It's called Failing Forward,
Feeling
and
forward.
and he talks about how failing is a part of life, but we're set up to believe that failing is not normal, and it starts with even school, where if you get a C, right, now you think, oh my God, my life is over, right? But no, it just it just makes you want to be better. But it really, and it really talks about, right, the Harry Potter woman, how many times her manuscript got declined or rejected, but she never gave up. And then look at her, right? Michael Jordan, he was told that he wouldn't be a great basketball player. He's a superstar, right?
Yes.
So when you and so the I love the book, because you really do begin to see how it's failing forward. If you look at the things that you consider to be failure a lesson, it moves you forward.
I
Because
love
if
that.
and it is uncomfortable, right? But it's uncomfortable until you get to the point of where you're like, oh wow, this didn't work out the way I expected it to, right? But what do I need to do differently? So that's another thing I do when I'm coaching people. When they're coming up with their goal and their plan, a part of the plan is, what are the obstacles and challenges that you might face? Because see, this is what happens. A lot of us have a goal, we come up with a plan, but we don't think about the obstacles and challenges. So when an obstacle or a challenge comes up, we stop. But
You
if
say
you
I'm not
build
doing
your
it. Yep.
right, but if you build your plan with the obstacles and challenges that might come up, when they surface, you're already expecting that it might have happened, so it doesn't stall you, because you already have figured out, as I go through this journey, this might happen, and what am I going to do when that happens? And so that's another thing. Like if I'm working with someone, I'm gonna be like, okay, so this is your goal, this is the plan. Okay, what do you think might happen that will will prevent you from doing XYZ?
That's great.
It's it's already built in your plan.
So that you can keep moving forward.
Exactly, because the one thing that stops us and stalls us a lot of times is something happens that we weren't expecting, and now we stop because we didn't build in to the plan that there might be a challenge, there might be something that stops me, right? Like it's a person that might be saving money, right? You saving money, you got your little bank account, it's going up, and then you got a major car, if something happens to your car, and now you got to get that fixed, and you're like, man, this money, but right? You already have this little cushion over here, right? And you know that, and that's why they tell you to have an emergency fund, right? You have an emergency. Now, a lot of us probably don't have them. We still working on them, but that's the thing, right? If you talk to a financial advisor, the first question they're going to ask you is, "So, how much money you got in your emergency fund?" Right? And they will tell you to have 3 to 6 months, right? But a lot of us don't have that, so we get the pink slip, or we have a issue with our car, we have a big expense, and then we're like, oh my god, you get stressed out or whatever, because you know what, you don't have that fun.
You weren't prepared.
And
You
that's
didn't
just an
even think it was
analogy.
coming. Yeah.
Exactly, that's just an analogy, but it's the same thing with life. It's the same thing with life, right? You never know what might come up in life, so you have to, in your mind, think about, this is my plan, but what if? None of us thought that we would be in this situation where this economy and this world is spiraling out of control,
No.
right?
Mm-mm.
None of us would have thought, like, how many business owners or companies that were their core business was DEI, that had to
Mm-mm.
pivot. Look at all these companies that lost funding, because
Oh yeah.
if you continue to have anything that says you a proponent of DEI, they started taking away your money. So
Wow.
you need to, and some companies have pivoted to, now they're using belonging as the word, right? But if you did not, if you were not quick enough to be like, how am I going to turn this around? You trying to figure out how to not lose these funds.
I never thought about that. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that the DEI was funded. I just thought he was something that he stripped.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there are some organizations that received, you know, grants and stuff because
Yeah.
they had programs. But when those programs are no longer being funded, now what?
You got to
Now you
pivot.
got to now you got to twist it. Now you got to pivot. Now you got to make it sound like something else to still do the same work.
That was a
Same thing
great
with
analogy.
life, right? It's same thing with
Same
life,
thing with life.
right?
Because
I
things
mean,
are
I'm
gonna
sure you
happen.
know.
Yeah.
Mm,
They gonna happen. I mean, it's inevitable. Things are gonna
yeah,
happen. It's how well you've equipped yourself to face it, to get
yeah,
through it, and to keep going. So I love
yeah,
that you say we're gonna build a plan, but we're gonna also in that plan we're gonna be looking for what might come along because it's coming.
yeah,
Most of the
yeah.
time, it's coming.
Look at you, like you
Yeah.
you said, right? You have your podcast, and now you have guests, right?
Yes.
So now you had to build in, how am I going to deal with when there are no guests, right? You have to think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
You also have to think about, how am I going to deal with when there are guests, but I don't want that guest. Because that's the other thing. That's the other beauty of being a business owner. You get to choose who you work with, right? And so those are the things that are part of your plan, right? Your part of your plan are who my guests are going to be, what my topics are going to be, what
Mhm.
happens when I no longer have, like, when. So those are all the things you have to think about. What are the challenges that are going to come up dealing with a podcast and having guests, and now editing,
It's true.
right?
This is
So
true.
yeah, so those are all things you have to think about.
This is very true.
Mhm.
Um, I want to touch on one more thing before we get
Mhm.
out of here. I heard you say, I know you do one-on-one coaching with
Mhm.
people if they so choose.
Mhm.
I also heard you say you're doing a program.
Mhm.
Do you have a wait list for this program that they can get on to wait if they want to be? Is it group or is it how would it
Well,
work?
I actually don't, because what I'm gonna do is I am gonna actually, once I'm done designing it, I'm almost done. I'm actually going to reach out and ask probably 4 to 6 women, or maybe 6 women, to be the focus group, the testing group. And so those individuals will actually get to help me test it at a lower rate. So I'll charge
Okay.
a lower price because I will not only want them to go through the program, but I will also be looking for like feedback, like what's working, what's not working, right? What do you think needs to change? Is it designed the way it is, or is it designed the way it should be designed? So that is going to be a 6 week program, but my initial is going to be a testing group,
Okay.
and then after I test it, and that's another question that I'll ask the participants that are in it. Does it work with 6 women? Could it be 8? Right? Do you think it could be? I'm always going to probably want it to be an even number though, because I want to set up like where people will have accountability partners, right?
Okay.
So that'll be a part of it. So look out for that, like, because I will be, once it's done, I will be reaching out and making a social media post to say, hey, um are you interested in being a part of this testing group, right? The founding group. I don't know what I'm gonna call it yet, but the first before I actually officially launch it, I want to test it by using individuals. But in the meantime, I do have um, a program that individuals can do on their own. It's called the alignment audit, and so they could either do it. They could either participate and do it on their own. It's a workbook that they go through, or they could choose the workbook and coaching with me, right? So for those individuals that are like, I'm not ready to talk to nobody, here's a workbook. It's self-guided. You can go through it. It's designed as like a coaching experience, or you could do the workbook with me, and that's called the alignment audit. So people could purchase that right now. And then I also have a community called Thrive Circle, called the Thrive Circle Sisterhood. It's a free community that individuals can join, and in that group, we we just talk, like I share, but it's really for like-minded women. So you have to be accepted into the group. So when you click to join, there's questions you have to answer, because it's I really designed it because I don't want it to be a space where we're just scrolling like social media. So it's kind of like our own little social media platform, but it's where we're actually doing work. Like there's questions about, like, what are you dealing with? What do you need help with? I'm giving tips on how to do stuff, and I also have a classroom set up where they can get like free material, like a mindful. It's like a mindful guide they could use and stuff like that. So yeah.
And all of this is located on your website.
On my website, or if you go to my Instagram page and clicked on my
Mhm.
LinkedIn, my link tree link, you could get all of it too. But yep, it's also on my website.
And I will have all of that linked below this video if you want to work with Coach Carter in any of those. I love the alignment audit, the
Yeah,
workbook, the fact that you can get a workbook,
yeah,
and because a lot of people don't want to talk to people. I
yeah.
was at a point in my life where I didn't want to tell you what I'm going through.
Yeah.
I didn't even really want to face it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to write.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can write it and then if I can see it and work it through myself, that's great.
Yeah,
So
because it
I would
gives it
have,
gives
yeah,
it gives people an opportunity to actually have an honest conversation with themselves.
with yourself. And that's where it starts. And then even once you get through with that, even if you still decide I still want to talk to
Yeah.
somebody, still you still offer the one on one. But I love the fact that you've designed a workbook that will make you look at yourself and make you really question yourself. You know,
Exactly. And
because
it does exactly what I talked about. It has a component of where you become aware, then a clarity section, and then a movement section. And so you could do it all by yourself, but it really gives people an opportunity to be honest with themselves. Because sometimes you need to be honest with yourself before you can actually be honest with anybody else.
it is so true. That is so true. And I have all of it linked right below this video, so um, you can reach out to her in any capacity. Um,
Mhm.
what I really want to thank you for coming on. I have really
Well,
enjoyed the
well,
conversation.
thank you. I want to thank you for even like trust thinking of me. Trust like when I got the link, I was like, "Who is Tiffany?" And I was like, "Oh, I remember," because we met through another coach,
Yes.
right? So
Yes, ma'am.
Tisha,
Yes,
yep,
ma'am.
yep. So
And
yeah, so I want to thank you for even
I'm
inviting me.
I'm
I
so
enjoyed
honored.
it.
I
I'm
am
I'm
so
sure I
honored.
talked more than you wanted me to, but I'm so
No, I'm so honored, and I love your story. I love that you were so transparent because I'm with you. When you're able to tell your story, you're gonna help somebody.
yeah.
Somebody out there is needing to hear it. So I am so honored that you came. And
And I'm also a published author. I forgot about that. That's another
why
part of
did you
my journey.
forget that? What's the name of your book and where can it be
That's an,
found?
that's another part of my journey. I said yes to collaborating on a book. So my first book is a collaboration with five other women. It's called "Loving You Is Hurting Me,"
Okay.
and my second book is a collaboration with one other woman, and it's called "Boss Built 2." So the first book talks about do I have it here? Yeah, I think I even have it here. It really is six of us that talk about our stories of how loving the wrong person, right, caused, the stress of depression or whatever, and how we navigated through that. So it's a story of six women. It's a really awesome book. Like I love the story of the other five women, and it actually built some pretty cool friendships from it. And the second book is a book where it's me and another woman that just talks about our journey, our career journey. And so it's called Boss Belt too.
Boss Bill too. Where can one find these books
On my website as well, or my
on the
link.
website?
Yeah, and my link tree. Like if you go to my Instagram and click on my link tree, really that's where you find like the link to all of that stuff. And to my shirt, my Healing is a Choice t-shirt. It's my shop.
Healing is a choice. You know, under my brand, I have healing is a choice that everyone healing is a right. Oh, that's sad. Healing is a choice that every woman has the right to make.
Oh,
That's my
like it. Oh, I like that. Yep.
that's what I lead off with because it is.
Yep.
It's a first it's a choice. You also have the right to make it. Like
Exactly.
yeah, and
Yeah. And it's hard, ladies. It's hard, but it is so
it
worth it.
is. It and
What's
you
on the other
deserve it.
side of that healing is so freeing.
It is. It is. I can't stress it enough. Um, so yes, I truly thank you. And to end, what would you tell a woman that's starting her healing journey? What advice would you have for her?
Be gentle with yourself. Um, give yourself grace, and that and this comes from a song that my god sister sent me when I was going through my healing journey. Is you are bruised, but you are not broken.
That's it. All right. Um, Again, I truly thank you. And until next time, I hope that your day goes as gorgeous as you are.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful day. Thank you so very
You
much.
too. Thank you so much.